What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery, welcome back to my channel. What I do here is I break down the occult sciences and I break them down to a very practical level so that you can use them and understand them, okay? And if you have, watched my channel before, you know the things I talk about, and most likely you're able to observe those in your day-to-day life. Okay, so if you're new to my channel, then definitely pay attention, because a lot of things that I'm talking about, a lot of the people that you probably have learned from and studied from within the occult field have not talked about these subjects, mainly because they don't know about it, okay? And if, most people that do know about what I'm speaking about are not speaking about it because they're afraid, okay? So long story short, let me give you a little bit of an understanding of who I am, just so that you know who you're getting this information from, which is very important. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I am a professional occultist. I am fully initiated in the entire Kabbalistic Tree. I'm studying when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot. And I'm also studying when it comes to planetary energies and direct connection to astrology. Okay? Without further ado, what is the topic of our today's video? I know this is a little bit late because Halloween has already passed, but we're still in that Halloween time frame, so the video still suits, or it still fits. So what are we going to be talking about in today's video? This is something that I'm excited to talk about because I was just doing doing my regular routines, and it popped in my head, and I was like, you know what? I should make a video on this subject because I have a lot of Kabbalistic knowledge. So that means I see Kabbalistic technology being used all around me on a day-to-day basis. I watch tons of movies. I have a A-list membership for AMC. So I watch all kinds of movies because it's one of my hobbies where I watch movies and I break down all the Kabbalistic symbolism that I see within the movies. And my girlfriend hates that I do that. She gets annoyed with it. But I do it. She sees it too. And you can't deny the Kabbalistic symbolism that is within these movies. But the reality is that most people have no idea about this Kabbalistic technology and how it's being programmed into their unconscious and subconscious on a daily basis by people that are basically controlling you completely, okay? So long story short, what I'm going to be talking about is specifically why do most horror movie characters have white masks? Why do most of them have a white mask? I mean, let's name a couple. We have Scream, Michael Myers, Jigsaw, Jason, okay? This is just to name a few of them. There are more, but long story short, this is the subject of what we're going to be talking about today. So if you want to know a little bit more about why this is, and you want to learn about the Kabbalistic symbolism behind it, this is your video, so stay tuned. Okay, so let's go into it. So, I was thinking about horror movies because I love horror movies. They're one of my favorite types of movies. I've always loved horror movies, mainly because I've just got that dark side to who I am. I just, there's something about the creepy. There's something about the edgy. It's just, something within the deep unconscious and subconscious that I'm drawn to, and a lot of other people are drawn to as well. But, as I was saying, I was just, thinking about horror movies because we were around the time of Halloween. And I guess, that's a perfect time to be thinking about horror movies. And I recognized something. Oh, and I also saw the Michael Myers movie, and I recognized something within these movies. And I recognized that most of these villains or these main characters within these horror films, they wear white masks. And I thought about it and I spent some time contemplating it. And it clicked very quickly for me because, as I've mentioned before, I'm very attuned to Kabbalistic knowledge, being a full initiated person within the entire Kabbalistic tree, the Universe A and Universe B side of it. So, I have a complete understanding of why the movie industries use most of the villains with white masks. So let's go right into it. So let's start with this. So let's name a couple of the villains that I can bring off the top of my head that I know for sure have white masks. We have Michael Myers, which is a movie that was recently released. Scream, which is coming out very soon, a very well-known movie. Jigsaw. Jason wears a white hockey mask. And right now, that's all that can come to my head. But if you can think of any others, then feel free to mention them in the comments or just keep it to yourself. But the reality is there is a common theme of having a white mask behind these horror films. And, this doesn't mean that, obviously every horror movie villain has a white mask. That's definitely not the case. But if we are being honest with ourselves, most of them do. And there's a reason behind that. This is not random whatsoever, okay? So let's just go right into it. So the reality is that if you look at this Kabbalistic tree, this is literally what all of these movies are based on, okay? So the more you understand how this tree functions, the more you're going to understand every single movie that you've ever watched in your entire life and are going to watch in your future. Because the entire movie industry, music industry, every industry that you can think of that is popular, they're literally using the Kabbalistic tree. Now, this tree is a form of occult initiation, okay? And can also be used as a form of ritual from observation. So long story short, if you look at the top of the tree, this is called the crown. This is one of the highest levels of occult initiation, okay? And as you can see, we have a different color scheme for all of the different spheres on the tree, but specifically, the highest sphere is white, which represents the crown, okay? Now, the reality is the reason why this Kabbalistic tree is being used in all of these movies that we are watching, me and you, is because this tree is used to control the mass collective. That's one of the reasons why you're not taught this tree in your lifetime, okay? This is why this tree is not taught in your school. This is why when you go to look into different occult orders that talk about this tree, there's a lot of misconceptions about the tree within the occult orders that claim to have mastery over this tree. They have a lot of things confused about how this actual tree functions. Okay, this is an ancient system of spiritual development, which actually dates back to Egypt and beyond. Okay, so long story short, the reason why you don't know about this most likely, obviously if you listen to my channel and you study my channel, you should know about this. You should have a general grasp of this. If you're a member of my Patreon, you should definitely understand that. That's what I'm holding you to. But for anyone else who's just like new to this video and coming across it, you probably have no idea about what this is. And that's actually that's the best thing for somebody who's trying to use this technology on you. So long story short, that's why you don't know about this, because it's being used in almost everything around you to control your awareness, okay? So as you can see, the top sphere is called crown. Now, people that exist within the top sphere, which is separate from the lower seven, okay? Supernal Triad. This would be the top of the tree, okay? So you could think of this tree as being the multiverse that we live in, okay? The Matrix. And the lower 7 spheres of this multiverse or this matrix are way different than the higher 3, the Supernal Triad, the Trinity, okay? And what separates them is a hidden sphere, which is number 11, called Dath. That separates the lower 7 from the higher 3. And Dath is represented by death, okay? And you have to cross over Dath to get to the higher 3. So in the form of initiation, if you don't know about this, you have to go from the bottom of the tree, Malkuth, all the way to the top, which is Kether. So you could think of Squid Games, them playing all those games, yada, 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 and then they cross the bridge at the 7th game. That would be crossing the abyss after the 7th sphere of the lower initiations. If you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 7th episode, they go to cross the bridge. See, it's all initiation thrown in front of your face. And you can watch, my other content on my YouTube channel, the Squid Games being one of them, to see how this is thrown right in front of your face when you have no idea about it. But long story short, the lower 7 separated from the higher 3, the people that are the higher ups of the multiverse we live in, I am one of them. We exist in the crown, okay? Now, the crown, as you can see, is white, okay? So this is going to be important to understand why most of these horror movie characters have white masks, okay? So when we think of Scream, when we think of Michael Myers, when we think of Jason, when we think of Jigsaw, and then all the other ones that I'm not mentioning right now that just for some reason aren't coming to the top of my head, all of them have white masks because they're representing crown. But what do all of these horror movie characters do? What is their nature? To kill and to destroy. So you could think of it like this. For people like myself who understand this Kabbalistic technology, we are people that understand how occult science can be utilized. Now, one of the most effective ways to use occult science is by creating reality from astral sea-space creations, which is basically creating an astral reality. Now, what exactly is an astral reality? An astral reality is as simple as a movie that is being orchestrated, produced, then released to the mass collective. Once that movie is released, for example, let's say Michael Myers, and you have millions of humans observing the movie on the big screen, once it's released, that observation is becoming an actual reality within the astral dimension. Okay? So the more people that are observing this movie, the more real it's getting imprinted on the astral plane, which actually can create an entity. It can create a spirit. Okay, it's the same concept as an egregore, which is basically creating a spirit from thought and emotion. Now, if you're like me and you've seen most of these horror movies before, like Michael Myers, Scream, etc., I know what Michael Myers looks like. He's a man in a jumpsuit with a white mask on who's crazy and kills people for what seems to be like his ascension and his joy. Now, if I asked you the same question, who is Michael Myers, guess what you're going to say? Something very similar. And if you ask your friend, and if you ask your brother and your sister, your cousin, your mother, your grandma, if they've ever seen the movie, they're probably going to have a similar answer. Now, this is all coming from our observation of the movie Halloween, which has as the main character Michael Myers. So what is this doing on an occult level, a hidden level? This is creating an imprint on the astral plane of a dimension where Michael Myers actually exists. So when it comes to energy, Michael Myers exists as an actual entity because of all of the people, all of the humans that have observed Michael Myers. So long story short, if you're an occultist like myself, you can invoke Michael Myers and it will become a real entity standing in front of you if you can successfully do invocation. So myself, I can easily invoke Michael Myers and have a conversation with this entity that was created from Hollywood. That was literally created from a movie production. But because, once again, of all the observation, all the awareness, emotion, and energy that was put into the Halloween series, this has become a real life creation within the astral dimension, which can have energetic effects to the physical plane. So what exactly does that mean? See, this can go past a lot of people's head. Okay, so that means that there is an entity named Michael Myers that exists within a dimension that is in the astral that can actually do similar things that the Michael Myers that you observe within the movie is doing. So what is Michael Myers doing in this case? Murdering people. Okay, that's what the movie's based on. He's based on eliminating targets. And there is an entity that is imprinted within the astral that is doing the same exact thing, except it's taking an energetic effect. So how does that manifest? How many people have you ever heard of that got, attacked by somebody with a knife? How many people have you ever heard of were stabbed? Something as little as that. The energy from that movie can literally create an actual physical effect here on Earth with very similar concepts as to what Michael Myers is actually doing. So to the average human perspective, you go on the news and you hear about somebody who is stabbed and, harmed by one person with a knife. And it just goes past everyone's head because they say, oh yeah, that person that had a knife, they were crazy. They were at the edge of their, they were at the edge of their sanity and they just decided to go crazy and start stabbing people. And that's how the news will promote it. That's how most people will observe that reality and they'll say, oh, that was a crazy person. Thank God it wasn't me. I hope the person gets better that got stabbed. Move on with my life. Okay? The person usually will get arrested, go to jail, whatever. But no one is asking the question of, and I understand why people aren't asking this question is because people aren't occultists. They don't understand the science behind why some of these things can happen. But, who's to say that a movie being created where you have a Michael Myers that is very real on the astral dimension, who's to say that that entity is not affecting physical humans here on our planet through possession? Meaning this entity, Michael Myers, how do you know that entity isn't influencing somebody who has no control over their mental state or over their awareness? Where this entity of Michael Myers can influence their entire awareness, which is a form of possession, and then cause the person to go on a rampage. Okay, now obviously this is going to sound far out for a lot of people. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? How does that even make sense? And that's okay. I'm not trying to convince you of believing me or anything, but I am telling you that this happens and this can happen. And the people that are in control of releasing these types of movies and the ones that are placing all of the Kabbalistic symbolism within the movies are very aware of how this occult science works and that it does do what I'm telling you right now, where it can influence actual people, actual human beings to be possessed by these demonic archetypes. For example, in this case, Michael Myers. So whenever somebody gets influenced by the Michael Myers, let's call it archetype, and goes and decides to stab somebody, and let's say the person that gets wounded ends up losing their life, hypothetically, guess where that energy travels to? Because Michael Myers is the archetype, the white mask archetype. The energy of the death that is produced from the demonic archetype goes to the crown. So what does that mean? That means if you are the top of the tree, like myself, then whoever gets influenced by that archetype let me say that again. Whoever is the top of the tree, which is the crown, whoever is attacked by that demonic archetype, that energy has to upline somewhere. That death energy has to upline somewhere. And that energy is going to go to, where do you think? It's going to go to the crown. Okay? And that is why, if you are an occultist, it makes a lot of sense to want to gain full control over all of the major industries that are being publicly produced and pumped into our mass collective. Because you can use this, we could call it astral technology, this Kabbalistic technology, as simple as creating a character named Michael Myers that has a white mask, a jumpsuit, and there's also, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of other Kabbalistic symbolism within these franchises and these movies. But one of the main things is the fact that he does have a white mask, and that is to symbolize that whatever can be affected by that demonic archetype, in this case the Michael Myers, if there's some crazy running around on this planet, which there are many, and they are not stable enough to control their awareness or control their mental, then that energy of the Michael Myers that is way more powerful than this crazy person that's, on the edge of sanity, that energy of Michael Myers can easily influence, or we could call it possess, that weak person, mentally speaking, to then go out and do something that they wouldn't normally do. And once again, it's the same technology, the same concept as creating an egregor. But obviously, when we're talking about Michael Myers, this is not your average egregor. This is an entity that was created on the astral plane from the very first Halloween series, or the very first Halloween movie that was ever released. And I'll let you do your own research and figure out exactly when the first Halloween movie was produced, so that you can just get a general seed of awareness of how powerful this egregor actually is. I mean, it's probably so powerful, it's not even, I don't even know if egregor would be the right word. It's like a full-on spirit now. A full-on spirit, a full-on real-life archetype. And as I've mentioned, as an occultist myself, I will say this, I've invoked Michael Myers. Okay, I've invoked Michael Myers, and I've literally had the archetype of Michael Myers standing right in front of me, and I can simply sit there and communicate with Michael Myers. And there's not much you can really, there wasn't much I could really gain from Michael Myers, because obviously if you've seen the movies, he's not the most intelligent person. But I invoked him, and I had a conversation with him. Didn't really get much out of it, but then I took his power. And long story short, what I'm trying to make clear is that, yes, he is a real archetypal energy. It is a real spirit, just like all the other horror movie characters that you've ever seen in any Hollywood movie or any mainstream major movie. These are all structured entities that have been created to upline energy to the top of the tree from everything that they kill. And the way they influence, I should say this, the more powerful they become on the astral, the more likely they're going to have a real life effect here in the physical. Meaning the archetype of the Michael Myers and the Scream can actually physically influence a human being. And this is just a fact. Once again, it's the same concept as egregor technology. And any real occultist who knows how to use egregors or knows how to use occult psychic warfare in general, you know how you can affect somebody energetically. Okay? It's not something I really need to explain. But yeah, that's the main program behind those movies, and that's why they have the white masks. Okay? Because the masks, once again, are symbolizing the crown, because the crown is well known as being the white sphere. Okay? Also can be symbolized as Pluto, because Pluto is the planetary energy that is in direct connection to the crown. So there's two ways you can symbolize the crown, which is either represented by Pluto, the planetary energy of Pluto, or the white sphere, because Kether is the crown, and it's associated as a white sphere or Pluto. So you could do either or. And these are just little subtle symbols that to the average person they have no idea about. One, because they don't know about Kabbalah. Two, because they're not aware enough to even perceive the things that I'm talking about. So you could just imagine, I mean, like somebody that gets what I'm saying and knows what I know and is an upline to these types of energies, I mean, you can rule the world. You can really influence a lot of things, especially if you have control over the major industries that are pumping out influence, occult influence, to the mass collective. But that's not what this is really about. Going into depth with all that is not what this video is about. It's just mainly about why these horror movies, why these horror movie main characters have these white masks. That was the main thing I wanted to cover. Honestly, in a nutshell, it's a simple topic. It's Kabbalistic. It is 100% Kabbalistic. And then oftentimes, I want to talk about maybe a couple other things. Oftentimes, you may see red symbolism. There's three other things that you may see. You may see the main character have some sort of red symbolism, or blue symbolism, or even green symbolism that can easily just show up as these colors. Like, for example, you have Freddy, the Nightmare on Elm Street, and Freddy is associated with the sphere of Mars, wearing a red shirt. Okay, he was burnt down in a house. Mars is associated with fire. Mars is also associated with aggression and warfare. But then he's also wearing green, which is the opposite of Mars energies. Green is associated with Venus. Green is associated with harmony. Okay, love, attraction, things of that nature, beauty, even some form of beauty, you could say. But there's a reason why they have Freddy associated with red and green, which are also the colors of Christmas. But long story short, that's actually going to go into a whole nother video I'll have to make, but I'll give it to you in a nutshell. The reason why they use a lot of red and green symbolism, you also see it in the Squid Games, when the girl who shoots bullets out of her eyes in the very first game they play, you'll see that the bodies through the girl's eyes, that's wearing the yellow, through the girl's eyes, the bodies of the humans are green. You can see a green energy around them, or a green sensor around them, because the girl that shoots them is a robot. And that's symbolic, okay? And this is actually deep, and that's why I'm going to have to make a whole nother video on this subject. But in its basic nutshell, it's because the people that are the top of the tree, me being one of them, me being the top of the top, they have been creating an inverted chaotic multiverse. Okay, so we're talking about people that are the Rothschilds, royal families, inter-Sanhedrin Jewish rabbis, Rockefellers, the people that own all the banking constructs. They've been using this Kabbalistic technology to control the mass collective. Okay, so these people are influenced by chaos. So they're literally producing more and more chaos in the world around us. And in return, it was giving them fame, not you could say fame, but more so fortune. They had a lot of money. Their money, I mean, they're the richest people on this planet by not a small gap, by far. I mean, they have the ability to print money. It's where your tax money, most of your tax money is going to. So long story short, these people are influenced by chaos. And that's why this can go into a whole nother video and a whole nother story, because there's a reason of why they're influenced by chaos. But this video is not about that. But long story short, they're influenced by chaos, and they've been producing an inverted multiverse where energies are inverted, masculine and feminine, inverted. Good is promoted as evil, and evil is promoted as good. This is all inverted, and this is what's in our multiverse right now. That's why things are burning down and reshaping, okay? But long story short, in the past, to be able to fuel their multiverse, they needed, you could say, Venusian energies, Venus-like energies, because Venus produces harmony, okay? That's why you have movies in the nature of the Green Lantern, okay? If you notice, there's a lot of green symbolism within a lot of these occult movies. Or I shouldn't even say occult movies. People won't understand that. In a lot of these mainstream movies like Marvel, DC, and all this other stuff, there's a lot of green symbolism. And the green, once again, in a nutshell, I'm going to have to make a whole video on this because I know it's hard to grasp if you've never heard this before. But green, if you can get people to, like in the Squid Games, the robot girl was killing the people that had the green energy field around them, then that produces Venusian energy into this multiverse. So, for example, with Freddy, who wears a red and a green shirt, that's not random colors. He's going around destroying, as Mars, destroying people, but he's also bringing this Venusian energy from the people he's destroying to the top of the tree, which are the people that have been creating the multiverse, the matrix, on the planet. Now, obviously, I know, trust me, I know, to the average person this can be hard to understand, but you heard it here first, and this is exactly what is going on, okay? And the highest level occultists in the field today understand this technology. There's obviously not a lot of us, but we do, okay? So just be on the lookout, do your own observation, and you'll start to see a little bit of these concepts that I'm speaking about in regards to green being a very important color to fuel this Kabbalistic tree that was inverted. Okay, now things have changed a lot in the recent times ever since the pandemic came out. That was signs of a complete takeover of the multiverse, which is now being ruled by new people, the new apex predators, the kings and queens of Edon, the vampires. But this is how the multiverse was currently being run and why it lasted as long as it did, which in a nutshell wasn't even that long. It's because they were using Good Shepherd technology, sacrificing the male, which is the Christ archetype, to get, the Christ archetype comes basically as the center of the tree. Somebody that has the potential of reaching the source, achieving the source. They trick that male into touching the source. He touches the source, then tries to save everybody down below, so he projects the source down below, and then he gets pulled down by chaos and sacrificed. So all that source energy he was able to touch then goes back into the multiverse and keeps it going. And then with the green symbolism, for example, in this case you have Freddy, who's red and green, red for destruction, green for bringing harmony. It's the same concept as the Good Shepherd. The green brings the Venusian energy, the Venus-like energy. So everything he's destroying, because he's Freddy wearing the red and the green, he's bringing that harmony to the multiverse, okay? And it's, once again, it's very similar to the Good Shepherd technology that I just explained right here. And you need this type of technology where you bring in the Venusian energy, the green, and you need good shepherds to maintain a chaotic multiverse. That's why they use it in every single movie that you watch, whether you're aware of it or not. You need it to keep the multiverse alive. Now, when you remove that, when you remove the good shepherd, when you remove the green, the Venus-like energy, it's no longer able to function properly. And that's why we have been seeing a lot of changes happening in the world around us in today's time. Okay? But that's another story. So other than that, that's going to wrap it up. I'm going to leave it here. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I spoke about a lot of things that can get very deep and are very deep. Definitely keep an open mind. That's what I would recommend. Please make sure you look into my YouTube channel and you study my free videos that I speak, or I should say where I speak, about a lot of these concepts, where I am telling you right now, there are very slim chances you're going to find this information public anywhere else. Very slim chances. So if you study my YouTube channel and you look into the free information that I am sharing about this stuff, then, I don't need to say anything else. Just use your observation. I mean, just, don't believe me. Take what I'm saying with a really small grain of salt. But what I really do challenge you to do is, your own observation. With the things I'm telling you, you're not going to be able to unforget what I'm saying, because this is what's happening. I know, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to force you to believe anything. I'm not trying to save you whatsoever. I could care less if you get what I'm saying or if you don't. But it's my job to give the opportunity and to just at least say what's happening. Okay? So, if you are interested, then definitely be open to it and use your own observation and try to pay attention to the things that I am speaking about, like what we've talked about in this video today. And also make sure, if you want to go deeper into it, make sure you're studying all of my YouTube videos. Literally go through all of my videos one by one, and over time you will start to get an awareness of what it is that I'm speaking about and how much this Kabbalistic tree shows up in your day-to-day life. You can do that, or you could just be affected by it and have no idea about it. That's fine with me. I really don't care, because I use this technology. Okay? And if you want to take it to a much deeper level, then look into my Patreon, because I'm sharing information on my Patreon that I am not sharing publicly. Okay? So if you really want to take it seriously and you want to master this technology, look into the Patreon. Okay? Now, let's leave it there. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up. Also, make sure you hit the notification bell, because I post videos as often as I can. And then hit the subscribe button, because if you're watching my channel and you're not subscribed and you like the content, then what are you doing? Wake up. Okay? And then, also feel free to share the video. If there's anyone that you know that is interested in this type of content and is interested in this information, then please, by all means, feel free to share the link. Okay? Share it to your social medias or whatever. Let's spread this information. Okay? Because it'll build up my YouTube channel, build up my empire. Okay? And also, if you want to gain access to exclusive content, definitely look into my Patreon, as I mentioned earlier. That's going to be the very first link in my YouTube description, and you're going to see right there all the names of the top tier members that are currently the top tier of my Patreon right now. So definitely look into the Patreon. On the Patreon, I have exclusive content, as I said, that is not on my YouTube channel. Very valuable content that ranges all the way from fundamental occult practices that I teach and demonstrate on camera so that you know what you're doing, all the way from live streams that I do on YouTube, but then afterwards publicly upload to my Patreon members only, all the way from blog posts that go deep into some of the occult sciences that you won't read anywhere else, all the way from my magic training course, which is at tier 3 and up, which is pretty much the course. If you are a beginner occultist, you want to join the magic training course and start going through that. to develop your psychic capabilities. Okay, that's what I have it created for. And then ranges all the way from top tier, tier 4, which is my most popular tier, which is called the Vampire Service, which is an actual service that I perform for all the participants of that tier on the 29th of every month, where I am permanently changing your energy field to be vampiric in nature, where you are now consuming, or we could call it pulling in energy from chaos around you and turning it into your own power and potential, which literally will change the trajectory of your life. Okay? But it will take time. You have to let the energies integrate. Okay? It's not like it's done like that. You wake up, you're a different person. It does change the energy field instantly, but you have to integrate that energy change. You have to integrate it. It is a form of alchemy. But in the long run, it will change the entire trajectory of your spiritual evolution in a way that is going to lead you to your highest potential if you take it seriously. Okay? So that is once again top tier. And right there, I would like to give a special shout out to all the top tier members. I appreciate all of you, and then all the members of the Patreon in general. I appreciate all of you. And yeah, we're going to leave that there. Okay, now the second link below is going to take you to where you can book your own tarot card reading with me. And what I do on the tarot card reading is I literally pinpoint where you are on this Kabbalistic tree right now. So whether you believe it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, you're somewhere on this tree. Okay? Why? Because this is the matrix. This is the multiverse. If you're watching me on YouTube, guess what? You're plugged in. Okay? Whether you believe it or not. So you're somewhere here. And if you want to take advantage of understanding where you are and where you're headed in your near and long-term future, then definitely look into booking a tarot card reading with me, because I can pinpoint exactly where you are. And I've already done over 150 readings, and all of the feedback, out of all those readings I've done, I've got one bad feedback. And it was only because the person was just upset that they weren't farther than where they thought they were. So it was self-importance. But I'm telling you, only one person gave me bad feedback. Everybody else has gotten huge amounts of value from this reading that I do at the second link below. So if you want to know where you currently are located at on this Kabbalistic tree, definitely look into the second link below. Okay? Now, other than that, go ahead and go down to the third link below. That's going to be where you can become a YouTube member. Now, when you become a YouTube member, your name is going to appear in green on my live streams, so that whenever I do my live streams, I'm going to give you a special shout out. I always give all the YouTube members a special shout out whenever I do the live streams. And most importantly, you're going to gain access to an exclusive set of emojis that I've designed myself to be able to be used in a psychic warfare manner. So as I said, I designed these emojis myself in a very intentional way to be able to be used as psychic warfare. So if you want to know a little bit more about how that emoji system functions, I have an entire YouTube video that explains it in depth. And the YouTube video is called, in parentheses, YouTube members, followed by Psychic Warfare Program. Watch that YouTube video. You'll learn a lot about how the emoji system functions. But once again, if you become a YouTube member, you gain access to those exclusive emojis, and you can take care of all of your enemies using Psychic Warfare, which is completely invisible. Okay? So, and it literally is the most simple way to use Psychic Warfare, and it is the future of occult technology. So definitely, if you're interested in that, the third link below is where you want to go. Okay? Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day or night, wherever you are, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.